All right. Well, I decided to wait that obligatory 10 seconds to make sure that YouTube is up and running. You know how crazy that's been lately. I'm going to bring this camera. I'm doing this on my phone. Ladies and gentlemen, I was going to do a formal live stream this morning, but frankly, I don't feel like setting up all my, even though I have this portable studio, I just didn't feel like setting it up this morning. So I hope you'll forgive me. But and there would have been good reasons to do that. I could have shown you these things on my phone rather than talking about them. Anyway, good morning. Today is Saturday, the 18th of April, 2020. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome as you come in. I'm sorry that this is so early in the morning, but I received something first thing on my Twitter account this morning that reminded me of a program that I did about 3 years ago where I brought this up. And we're hit with so much information all of the time. It's a massive amount of info that they send at us because in any military operation, one of the principles of war is mass. You overwhelm your enemy with mass, with large amounts of troops, or in this case, information, and it overwhelms them. They can never resolve one wave of information before you hit them with the next, which is also how they're running this, what I consider to be this bioweapons attack on us now. Yeah, information warfare, Monica. Thank you. So again, welcome as you come in. But this was this all of a sudden. Of course, I got this information this morning, and you who sent it to me, thank you. I already DM'd you on Twitter, and thank you for sending that to me and reminding me about it. So I'm just going to jump into this and tell you what it is, and we're going to discuss it a little bit. So about 3 years ago, I saw this when it came out, and it was a briefing uh, about the use of vaccines to destroy the area of your brain that is responsible for your spiritual sentiments. Your It actually attacks your emotion base as well, and basically the idea was to eradicate. This is how they were selling it, and this was an official briefing. Okay, this was not often some weirdo group of people that are just getting together and talking. This was a government sponsored to the military and intelligence people about the use of this vaccine, which when injected into, they were saying, of course, Islamic jihadists would keep them from having their crazy attacks on people for disagreeing with their religion. In other words, do away with fanaticism. But in reality, what it does is it shuts down that part of your brain that, and I'm going to say it this way, if you people don't like it, go somewhere else. It shuts down that section of your brain that helps to have that connection with spiritual things, okay? God, the revelations, I don't mean the book of Revelations, but I mean answers to prayer, things like that. And this isn't crazy. These were scientists that had developed this vaccine to attack this part of the brain. Now, I happen to know, I mean, the heart has a brain of its own. And it's interesting, yeah, chemical lobotomy. Uh, the heart has very much a brain and a remembrance of its own. I know that sounds Looney Tune-ish to a lot of people, but it really does. The heart is another area of your emotional makeup, your spiritual makeup. So you have the connection in the brain, not just the pineal gland, but the section of the brain that they wanted to take out with this vaccine. It basically just fries it. And of course, you have your heart. Well, being the official briefing that it was, it alarmed me at the time, and I sent it out. Again, I was sent that this morning, and so that you know, on this, I can't put it in the description box while I'm doing this on my phone. So, what you need to do is go to my community tab on this channel, okay? Click on that, and the very last one I put up, it has a link at the top of it, which covers the article in the video, covers the video that's below it, okay, and my comment. Same thing on Twitter. I sent this same thing out on Twitter. So this is why I say you should have Twitter. Even if you don't follow the world, you should decide to follow certain people that you think are worthwhile. So on my Twitter line, it's there as well. And you go to about the 20-minute, 30-second mark, and you start listening. This was the exact same video, section of the video that I saw about 3, 4, 5 years ago, whenever it was. And these are real, ladies and gentlemen. These are real. So I felt like I had to come on this morning, and in these tweets and in that tweet and in the community tab here where I posted the link, which I can't post here right now, it talks about what somebody just mentioned, this chemical lobotomy. You need to see it. Think about this. Bill Gates and Fauci and Bricks, and I'm including President Trump, because what did he say? He was out on the White House lawn one day. Yeah, I do have my coffee. It's not caramel cream, but it's still great. They have a cafe macchiato, I think is what it's called for the creamer. So I'm using that. I'm still, well, as a matter of fact, I am in the studio right now, the music studio. We might play around a little bit this morning, but I don't think we're going to do a real, well, here, I'll show you. I'm going to turn around, let you see it. So you know I'm not kidding you, okay? There it is. You see this? Let me move this around so you can kind of see some of the things that are in here. There are all these amps, and there's a set of drums over in this closet to the right. They push the drums out of the way and some of the other things so that they can use this for other reasons. But see, I really am in a studio. That right there, that guitar, I'm going to show you this. That guitar right there, that is a Fender Telecaster. He also has a Fender Stratocaster, which I play, several acoustic guitars. He has a Fender bass, well, a couple of different basses, drum sets, and then we have a keyboard that we use for synthesizing, making other musical sounds and things. So I just thought I'd show you that so you know I'm not, pulling the wool over your eyes. Okay, so let me bring this down a little bit more again. That's a little bit too far. All right, so what is Bill Gates putting in this soup? And remember, President Trump said out on the White House lawn, you got to get your shots. You got to get your shots. Well, remember, one of the things he ran on, or at least he mentioned, how bad vaccines were. Well, how suddenly he changed when he took the office, right? Why? Ladies and gentlemen, it seems like to me that he's doing everything he can to become the tyrant that we were afraid Hillary Rodham Clinton was going to be. And you don't want to hear that, okay? Yeah, he was on the White House lawn, and he said you need to go get your shots. Look it up. You can just Google it. Trump says get your shots, and you'll see where he said it. Okay. So, hi Kay, how you doing? Yeah, why? Okay, we're getting to that. So, there's this big push for all of these vaccines. Now, we've been poisoned with vaccines since they first came out. Once it became something that was done on a mass scale, they've done a lot of things. And I don't want to get into, hi Edelson, we don't want to get into all the details of the past. We should all know that vaccines are bad. And they'll probably take me down. I keep thinking they're going to take me down for when I talk about these things. And all they do is they do throttle my streams for sure. And they have hidden them. It takes them 24 hours to come up. I don't know if it's a technical problem or whatever. Good morning, Kay. So, at any rate, so what is Bill Gates putting in this soup? Well, obviously, one of the things I think we can count on now is part of the vaccine, and they can put many different things into these soups. When I was activated to go overseas after 9/11, they gave me 23 different injections. Some were with the air guns, air injectors, and some were with needles. And apparently they gave me a chip at the time too, which they didn't tell me about. I found that out again when I went to the VA later, and I've talked about that story. But at any rate, they gave me 23 injections, and each one had a soup of 2 or 3 or maybe more things in it. So I didn't mind the injections so much, but the amount of material they put into my body made me sick, and frankly I was never the same. I was never the same after that. Some people say you've never been, normal, but at any rate, to try to keep on the lighter side. So they say that they're going to give you a vaccine for a coronavirus, which first of all isn't going to work because we all know that you can't vaccine against a cold virus, a coronavirus. Now, there's just no way they're going to do it. So this is just an excuse, and the masking thing that they want everybody to do, despite the fact that we're supposedly coming down out of this deal. The masking thing is training that you will do what you're told. The social distancing to destroy human contact and behavior. Now, I understand again that there are certain things you do when people are sick, but you don't quarantine the well. And this massive thing that they're doing now is nothing more than a training program. And so that you will get your freedom, you will have to be inoculated. And I think we can all see where this is going if we have any insight, any discernment at all. So when you see this clip, it starts at the 20-minute, 30-second mark and go to about the 25-minute mark. You'll see what I'm talking about, a real briefing with real government people, all that. And I think that it's very likely that what's going to be in the soup of this vaccine is very similar to what the Germans did to their prisoners in World War II. They put a ton of fluoride in the water, which basically is the key component to lithium, or lithium is the key component to the fluoride, which is the key component in things like Prozac and those other anti-anxiety drugs, and makes you docile. We know they've been putting it in the water supply for a long time. So, what's going to be in this vaccine? I can all but guarantee you that one of the things in this vaccine is going to be this substance that they talk about in this video that I've told you to go look at, that will burn out that section of your brain. Now, not only are they trying to stop you from having a connection to the great eternal, however you want to define that, I'm leaving that open. However you want to define your connection to God, what that is, that's what they want to destroy. In the process, what did they do in 1984 in the Brave New World? No emotions, no love between men and women. No, the only love that you are permitted to have is with the state. So they're destroying our human side, our need for emotions and our need for contact and our need for communication, our need for love, even our need for sex. Okay? They're trying to destroy all that, ladies and gentlemen, and Bill Gates is a demon. I'm really, you think that things are going to happen in some type of a great, grand, apocalyptic way, right? For the end of the world. You talk about the beast and you imagine this horrible thing, with fangs and horns and all that. No, all these things are allegories for very subtle things that are normally committed by evil men. They could be possessed. They could have another being slip through from CERN into this dimension, like I talked about before. I don't know how they're doing it. But there's no doubt that Gates now fulfills a very specific prophecy. Okay? They don't want you to have those realizations. They want to cut those contacts with God off. It's been my contention for some time, and I've heard some other people mention this, that the stratospheric aerosol injections that they're doing, which most of us call chemtrails, and they can deny that the chemtrails because that's not what they call them. I think that a major reason for that is because they've been trying to cut off the spiritual messages, communications, and don't laugh at this, okay? I mean, you can if you want. I think they're trying to cut off our connection to God. Both, and I'm not really sure that they're even trying to cool down the earth. It might be that they're actually trying to warm it up, because as several people have pointed out, you put a over even a small area, you put a sheet of visqueen, that clear plastic over it, and it absorbs heat, down below. It concentrates it. It doesn't increase it. So the fact that the Earth is actually, staying about the same, it might be that the Earth, the ecosystem is fighting back their effort to heat us up. I don't know, but part of the particles in these SAIs might very well be to try to deflect these electromagnetic communications back out into space. In other words, the answers to your prayer. I don't know. It kind of goes along with Malachi that I've talked about before, where, and God shall send the Son, Shemesh, not Jesus, the Son, with healing in its wings. In other words, it's going to be some sort of a transmitter to help change us and to free us from these slave traders. So, here we are. They're doing everything they can to cut us away from God. Everything they can to destroy our very beautiful human emotions. Even anger can be beautiful, because there has to be an opposition in all of our things, right? For us to learn. But we're made to love each other. You know, if you look at the human body and how it's put together, it wasn't made to, like lions and tigers and bears. It wasn't made to destroy. But this is. This and this, the heart, are capable of destruction, and can help men to develop weapons where they can become those evil, devouring things. So we were made in an image that is made for conveying love and affection, face to face, or however else you want to do it. But the point is, I know I get gross sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, they're trying to destroy it. And if you don't think so, just go back and read 1984 and Brave New World, and know that Alex Huxley and all those guys, they told us what they were doing and what the future was. That those weren't science fiction books, but they were their plans. And we can see it playing out in everyday situations now. So I thought I'd better come on and tell you to go see that. I will go to chat for a few minutes, okay? Because we haven't done that in a while. And please forgive me, because sometimes it gets difficult on the phone here. But it's obvious that, and it's obvious that Gates is not putting in anything to do with the coronavirus, because it doesn't work. I mean, he might be able to go after one strain of it, but that's it. So this isn't about getting everybody so that they can ward off that little invisible enemy, as Trump likes to call it. No, there are going to be other things in there. And some people say, well, it's probably a good thing to take away the fanaticism of the Islamic terrorists. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a law, and the law says, do not that which you hate to your neighbor. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's one thing to defend yourselves. It's another thing to unleash this ungodly, disgusting, despicable, evil vaccine on the world. They'll vaccine you, and they say it right in the video. It'll vaccinate you so that it does away with that section of your brain that is responsible for controlling those very spiritual emotions, be they good or bad. Who are they to decide to take them away from you? Sometimes anger is necessary for self-defense. If they make you an emotionless blob walking around, what are you really? You're nothing more than a biological unit run by a computer system. And isn't that really where they want to go? Don't they want to have everybody subject to the AI and plugged into the, they won't let just anybody plug into the main AI mainframe or whatever they call it these days. No, their God will be plugged into that. But we'll all be oh, it's Goodwill, Early Roy, it's 1440. Well, wherever you are, where I am, it's about, well, it's coming up on a little past 7:30 in the morning, coming up on 8. So at any rate, they want to track you. They want to make you emotionless. They want you to have no feelings for your wife, your husband, your children, your friends. It's another way to eradicate mankind. Okay, it's a war here. However, it's being done with interdimensional beings. If you believe Revelations, again, the way I look at Scripture is not really always, in some way ethereal or esoteric. I mean, I do, obviously. I've talked about it before, but in these grand archetypes, that they plant in us, it's starting to look very much to me that of anybody that's been classified as the Antichrist or the beast or any of those things, and every generation has had theirs. They thought it was Nero, the early Christians, not so much Caesar, Tiberius. They didn't think so much about him, but certainly Nero they did. They considered that he might be. So everybody, every generation has people that fit in these archetypes, but never before, other than like the stars that they were put, that they put on the Jews in Germany, and there have been some other things like that over the history. Never before have we actually had something like this, where they can actually put a mark in your hand or in your forehead, and I'm sure that you'll probably be given the opportunity to select which one you want to do. And the one in your forehead could just simply be your eyes with biometric scans. It could be that simple. It's the idea of what they're up to, and what the idea is that they mark you as their own, and they take away your human God-given emotions that are so important. Because what did Malachi say? Malachi said, and in those days, first of all, of course, it says if God didn't intervene, no flesh would be saved. It would all be destroyed, right? And then the second part of that is in Malachi. It says, which links into it, it says, and in those days I shall turn the hearts of the children to the fathers, and the fathers to the children, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Whether you believe in God or not, what is the most important thing to you? Your cup of coffee? Your musical instruments? Your car? Well, if they are, you've got a problem. The most important thing to you should be those that you feel that love for, that dedication to, that loyalty to, the people that you would die for to protect them. The love between a husband and a wife, and the love between the parents and the children, and the extended family. Do you see that they want to destroy that? Because for the last 60 years, they've made women be the wives of the state. And I know that there are abuses by men, but there are also abuses by women. I remember going to the Utah State Capitol. This was, I don't know, I think I even did a program about it. I may not have shown it on video, but I talked about it. But it was somewhere in the mid 2000s. There was this big push about domestic violence. You know what I found? There's more domestic violence by women than by men. Yeah, that's a fact. Their statistics were even there. But they go after the men because they know that it's easier to control the women. In the Mormon church, the women are the ones that run it. Oh yeah, the guys at the top are keeping in control, but they use the women in the church to threaten the men. That's what they do. So the idea is to control the men, the fierce fighters, the ones that stand up and protect the family, the ones that stand up and protect, the communities. I'm not saying women can't do that, but men are built for it, not women. They want to destroy all that, ladies and gentlemen. That's what their ultimate goal is. And it's obvious that Bill Gates fits these archetypes in the book of Revelations and in Daniel. And I hate to say it, but Trump does as well. Who is he causing to be worshipped? Who is Bill? Who is Bill's help in all of this? Who has put Fauci and Bricks up there to, despite what he says, liberate Virginia and liberate Minnesota and liberate Michigan and all that, which are nice that he supports what's going on. But I hope you understand that he's taken no action to do that, and he could, and he has not. What he has done is he's put himself in a political position, I'm talking about Trump, where he can say he did something, but then he's not responsible for the outcome, be it good or bad. Do you understand how he is a politician? I didn't think he was. He's a deceitful, evil demon. He could very well, along with Gates and their minions like Fauci and Bricks, etc., be the very people, along with Soros and all these others, of course, that are trying to take away mankind from what we were designed to be, created for. Indeed, the image of God in the material world, which is the next step in the evolution. A lot of people say, well, the physical world is going to go away. No, it isn't. This is the physical creation was the next step in the whole creation process. I used to talk to very knowledgeable Hebrew scholars and rabbis, And they used to say, well, and they would use the physics of the time to say, really the physical is deteriorating. It's going to go into void. It's going to go away. No, the fact of the matter is that the reason why the physical is here is because there is an outside force that permeates it all, that keeps it together, even though the physical wants to deteriorate. In other words, the physical realm, the material realm, is subject to the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy, which is that things have a tendency to disintegrate. So that in itself proves that the theory of evolution is false, and that it proves that there must be some conscious force that makes this stay together. And the promise is not that that will be destroyed, but that it will be raised to an incorruptible level like the spiritual. Yeah, it is Saturday. This is my Sabbath. So, and people say, well, you're not supposed to use electronics and stuff on the Sabbath. Well, that's our method of how we communicate now. And so, with what I needed to do this morning, here we are. So, to end this, and we'll do a little bit of chat. The fact of the matter is that Bill Gates fits and Trump both at this point, unless Trump repents. And I've said there's a scripture that's not in the Bible, okay, but I still call it scripture because of the way it was framed. I'm not going to go there, but what it says is that this person, or anybody like him, if they repent in front of the whole world and change course and go back to righteousness, they'll be okay. But if they don't, they'll go to the bottomless pit along with people like Gates. And yes, what's happening. So we cannot take this vaccine, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to turn you into you remember the Stepford Wives? Most of you probably aren't old enough to remember that movie. Did any of you ever see the Stepford Wives? Do you remember how they just walked around kind of soulless, empty-eyed? They would do anything they were told. They were, basically programmed. That's where they want us, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want you to have your own feelings, your own inspiration. Yeah, it's a form of transhumanism. That's exactly what it is. In other words, God promises us eternal life, right? Based on certain circumstances. The resurrection, if you want to go along with that, I do believe in the resurrection. The Shroud of Turin proved that to me, and some other things, right? God guarantees you eternal life. Well, the devil is the one who imitates God, but in an unholy way. He never gives you 100%. He always holds back a little for himself. He'll promise you and give you the truth 99 times to get that one lie into you. And we talked about that before. So this entire thing with downloading your consciousness into a computer, this whole thing of transgenderism, that there will be no male nor female. That's why I don't trust the interpretation of that scripture in the New Testament, because if that's true, that Jesus said that there will be no male and female, no marriage after this, that is the definition of Luciferianism. Do you understand? That's the sure sign that there's something Luciferian going on there. I don't believe that was interpreted or written even down correctly. And I'm sorry, a lot of you say, oh my gosh, no, the Bible's the infallible word of God. Well, it is. If it is, then you should not be married, and you shouldn't be male or female. You should be doing everything you can, like the transgenders are, to become neither male nor female. I'm sorry, but that's just the facts. So, yeah, that's where they're headed. So I want you to go look at that so that you don't have to just believe me. There's no way we can take this vaccine. Oh, they've put the same kind of materials in the food and in the air. I just talked about the spraying, the water. They've been hitting us on all sides. With the state becoming the husband of women now, it's broken apart the family. And a lot of women, I've been watching this over the last decade, actually the last 2 decades. And I've seen this happening. And part of it is because of the economic situation. You know, people are becoming more economically, or they were until now, more economically independent. And when you're economically independent, you have a tendency not to go into traditional um, family units. That starts to break down. It's a false hope, really. And I've noticed this change, and I'm not saying it didn't happen in the men too, but it's really been evident in the women. It's very evident, and that's why, one of the reasons why I've been so, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into my personal life, but it's really been difficult to find the person that hasn't given into that, the woman that's given into that. Now, I want them to have their own mind, their own thoughts. I mean, there's nothing better. Like I said, Carol was a Democrat, so there's nothing wrong with that interaction. But the glue that holds people together, I've noticed, has come up missing so often. I'm not saying there aren't good families out there. There are great men and women that are out there, but I'm just saying I see this trend, and we're seeing it across the board with like I said, the transgenderism business, with the uh, when they're bringing those, I forget what they call them right now because there's so many things, but when they bring those guys dressed up as women into the schools and in the libraries, and doing that stuff in front of little kids, it's all programming, and they're trying to destroy that relationship. So here we go with a vaccine that isn't just they talked about taking away the religious fanaticism of these Islamic extremists, but if they deliver it to every man, woman, and child, we will all become automatons with no emotions, no inspiration, no revelation, no intercommunications, no love. Do you see where they're taking us here? So we can't do it. That's why I don't wear a mask, because I'm not going to bow down to it. Oh, I realize that it would probably be better under most circumstances. I mean, if you're amongst a bunch of sick people, by the way, the mask does not prevent you from getting the virus. And I might get eliminated off of YouTube for this. I was a scrub tech in an operating room when I went through college, all right? And I know what those masks are. The surgical masks, they don't protect you from anything. The idea of those is to keep hair and when you're talking, to keep that spittle from getting into the open surgical wound. That's the purpose of it. It doesn't stop anything. All right. That's why you have all the sterile gowns and only a little small place that you work through. All right. Now they are like the N95s. They do have a little more capability, but it's still not enough because your eyes might be exposed, and the viruses are so small they can slip through. Those things are not. You'd almost have to have a CBR mask, like the old M17 mask, I think is what it was called. The real chemical, radiological, biological mask that with the proper filters would stop all those things. So this is all training. This has nothing to do with reality. People wear gloves. My friend here, this rancher here, musician, he was talking about friends he knows that they have gloves on and they think the gloves are what protects them. So they'll go and do their thing, and then they'll touch their face and rub their eye and stick their finger up their nose, and they think it's the glove that's protecting them from the disease. No, every time you do your thing with your glove, you got to take it off and put a new set on. When I worked in the OR, you know, I mean, if you did anything, you'd have to go back and that contaminated you. You'd have to take off those gloves, re-scrub, and then put on a new pair of sterile gloves. So, this whole thing is nothing more than training, ladies and gentlemen. This whole thing of the shutdown is training. Now, I've told you about going and looking at the connection in my community tab. The link is there. It's also on Twitter, so you can go see it. Now, what about May 1st? I put this out as well, and I've mentioned it a few times. I'm not saying for sure that we're going to have a catastrophic event around the end of the month, the 1st of May. But the 1st of May is not only just the communist celebration of May Day. It is, and there are several different ways the occult calls it, but I'm going to go with Beltane Festival, and I talked about it before. The Beltane Festival is a celebration of Baal. It's actually how I say it, as I said before. But it's a celebration of all those gods, Molech, Baphomet, Baal, all of that. And part of the part of the ritual for the satanic Luciferians is human sacrifice. And Monty has talked a little bit about some kind of a big event coming. I think right now the way it's looking, yesterday I saw, and I know I'm diverging quite a bit. Yesterday I saw that Secretary of State Pompeo put out a warning, and I put it on my Twitter line, and I put it again on the community tab here, that he said that any nation that does a cyber attack on us, that they will respond. A cyber attack, ladies and gentlemen, that could shut down our communications, and the military and the government have protections. They have Faraday cages, and they have other things, robust systems that can probably overcome some of that as far as EMP and those pulse weapons. But a cyber attack, yeah, they've got pretty sophisticated systems there, but the grid doesn't. The electrical grid doesn't, which most everybody depends on. If the electrical grid goes down and the communication system, think about it. People that depend upon, the electricity to pump their water or to run their refrigerators, or worse, to take care of things in hospitals. People at home that have, different medical devices, or just plain transportation and growing food and all of that's going to go down. And if the grid is taken down, that could be a catastrophic, that would be a national level event, international actually. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but Pompeo bringing out, and think about it, they sent a lot of these folks in the military to Cheyenne Mountain and locked them up in the NORAD facility. They don't do that for a virus, ladies and gentlemen. They don't do it for a virus. The virus is the first wave of the attack, and unfortunately, as we all know, well, it's not an extinction level event quite, Edelson, but damn close. They don't do this for a virus. Something else is coming. Something else is coming that they're anticipating. And it could be an EMP. It could be a pulse weapon that takes out the grid. I don't know. It could be a cyber attack. Who would be doing that? It's not going to be the Russians. They're not interested in that. Although now the way that our command structure, our National Command Authority has been acting, blaming them for everything around the world, which is totally ludicrous. The Chinese are the problem, not the Russians. Maybe the Russians do feel like they have to defend themselves. This is very bad. Hi, Jesse. Oh, and I saw Nancy from Headlines with the Voice too. Thanks, everybody, for being here. The American Revolution is what they fear. Absolutely. That's why this lockdown, I mean, can you believe it? Those damn police officers were telling that the governor suspended your rights. You don't get to suspend rights, governor. Those rights and that constitution are there to control you, not the people. So they can't suspend your rights. And a police officer saying that has violated his oath of office and is committing evil. And we don't need to obey it. And we must not. And more, they arrested one lady yesterday for organizing a shutdown, a demonstration against the shutdown against Governor Murphy of New Jersey. They actually arrested her. So they've suspended your First Amendment rights with this. Where's Trump? Oh, liberate this, liberate that. Where's his DOJ filing charges against these people for Title 10 and 18 violations? Where's the DOJ? They're not going to do anything, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to do anything. Trump will talk so that he can say he tried to speak up. That way he's got himself so he can claim victory in either situation. Don't you see? Now that's where we are. And now with the vaccines, they're going to take it to the next level. Your First Amendment rights, your right to freedom of assembly, your right to the press, in other words, to report on what's happening that your government's doing. Your right to, well, what it says. It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In all of these situations, the government says that they can suspend those rights. Well, if they can suspend those rights, they aren't rights. And you've heard Brian on or you should have at least, have heard Brian on High Impact Vlogs talk about that. He does a very good job on explaining it. No, they can't suspend rights. They cannot do it. And if they do, they're tyrants, and they have abrogated their responsibilities under their oath, and they have broken the contract, the social contract. Actually, they've broken the contract with the people, which is the Constitution. So they're in violation of the contract. They're the ones that they are the ones that have violated the terms of the contract, not you. We can't stand for this anymore, ladies and gentlemen. We can't. All right. I've said my piece. Don't forget to go watch that. You'll see it for yourself. And I remember seeing this video. It was 3 or 4 years ago, quite a while ago, and I covered it on this channel at the time. I probably talked about it at the same time that I covered that the Silicon Valley guys were saying that they were setting up this AI god to worship. In other words, they're going to worship the workmanship of their own hands, which is exactly the definition of idol worship. Right? I'm going to start at the bottom. I'll start from here. I'll back up a little bit, okay? I just don't want to lose it. And then we'll go from here, okay? And I'm sorry I missed all those at first, but let's see what you got. Okay. You guys are talking to each other. I really like that. Oh, I didn't see that. So there was a longtime female officer on Veritas yesterday, Karen Wilson. Interesting. Yeah, there's so much I can't keep up with, as you all know. We could do this 24 hours a day and we wouldn't be able to keep up with it. And that's the point. That's what they want. They want to overwhelm. It's what I call it. It's called the principle of war called mass. That's exactly what it is. That's why when Trump wouldn't go on the offensive and use another principle of war called initiative, I knew we were in trouble. And it wasn't that he was a neophyte. I gave him that benefit of the doubt, but it's not that he's a neophyte. It's that he knows exactly what he's doing. He's pretending to be the good guy so that we don't act. To hold us, there's another principle when you're in a war. You put massive firepower, overwhelming firepower onto a position to fix the enemy, or you do it by maneuver. You maneuver an enemy into a place where you choose the time and place to attack. You fix the enemy so that they are forced to stay in one place. You got them, and then you maneuver on them, or you deliver overwhelming firepower there. That's what they're doing. Do you understand? That is what they're doing. They're fixing us so that they can take us out. That's what they're doing. Nancy says, she's addressing done playing around. If you think the DOJ will prosecute anyone, you haven't been paying attention. Right. They've gotten us to this point of the 30th of April, 1st of May, the Beltane Festival. This is bad news. It might be that that's not it, but considering the fact they've been pushing everything into late spring, early summer, as Barr said on the Durham thing, I don't know. Now, some people have been saying, I guess on Lou Dobbs yesterday, and Nancy, you'd know this, chime in here, as Monty says, chime in. Barr was saying that, or people were interpreting what Barr said. Lou Dobbs, for one, was interpreting this, and Joe DeGeneva. Joe DeGeneva has not been right on almost anything. Now, I had a lot of faith in him as knowing maybe some inside information. He's been way off. As much as I like him and his wife, they've been way off. So they're saying that Barr is definitely getting ready to indict some people. You know what? How long have we been hearing that, right? If they get this thing in place and they cause a big catastrophe internationally, or at least in this country, whether it's the 1st of May or not, further down the road, I don't know. But if they get to that, do you realize they'll never have to have any indictments? All of that goes away. And then guess who they come after? You and me. Which is what they've proven in this whole lockdown. They let criminals out of jail to make room for you. Do you see that? Now, they're trying to say it's to protect them from the coronavirus. Are you kidding me? You're going to set somebody free that doesn't have an ability to get a job on most situations, has had only prison medical assistance, has a criminal background. You're going to set them free on the society to attack them, to steal from them, to cause all kinds of chaos. And you think that's to protect them from the coronavirus, from the Wuhan virus? No. It's what you do when you're going to take over a country. You let the criminals out, and then you start jailing the people that are standing up for their rights, which is exactly what is occurring. This is not the America you grew up in. Well, it slowly has morphed. They're lying to us, and Trump is lying to you. Bold, bald faced lies. He's a smooth talker. He was brought in to sell you into your slavery. That he would be able to lower you carefully down into hell. Because I'm not accusing my followers here. I'm saying this was what he was brought in for. Okay? Hillary would have happened too fast. They were going to do what they were going to do no matter who was in. But Trump was a great salesman. And he's fooled us, ladies and gentlemen. He's totally fooled us. And now here we are. And he's done nothing to protect your rights. As a matter of fact, he's acted against them in every indication, in every situation. What to do, Roy? Good question. There's really not much you can do because nobody has stood up to be the cover with competent authority for us. Nobody's done it. We were hoping Trump would. Local governors, they've all fallen. Every state in the union has declared a state of emergency. This has never happened before. Every governor is in on it, whether wittingly or unwittingly. We have no friends. Governor Abbott's probably one of the closest. The governor up in South Dakota is I think it's in South Dakota, is a possibility. But 2 out of 50 isn't going to do us any good. Local sheriffs, some know what's going on, most do not, most don't care. The only thing they care about is their authority, their power, their pension, and their paycheck. It's all they care about. So what do? It really does come to where you need that thing they're going to try to destroy with the vaccine. They're going to try to destroy that center of emotion, of inspiration, of revelation, of survival. They're going to try to destroy that so that you become an automaton. So the first thing you do is you don't take the vaccine or any more vaccines, period. Any more of those things. You just stop. I haven't had a vaccine. The VA tried to encourage me. They can't force you, or at least they couldn't before. They probably are now. Tried to convince me to get the flu vaccine, I don't know, about 6 years ago. I just don't do it. I think the last time I actually got a vaccine was when I was deployed in 2001. And that was bad enough. It did me a lot of damage. A lot of damage. People say, yeah, we know, we can see it. So, you don't get the vaccine, number one. You stop complying with their masking procedures because they've got to see civil disobedience at large levels. And yeah, that's dangerous. I know. Yeah, you get arrested for not wearing a mask. That's a violation of your rights. They're letting people out of prison to put you in. We can't stand for that. You try to get right with whatever you think the great eternal is, and I'm not going to go to any great depth of that. That's a personal thing, and we all look at it a little different. Just try to get a spiritual connection. Prep, pray, stay out of the way, and you won't be able to do it 100%. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able, even Alex Jones with all of his time, and anybody for that matter, who's had plenty of time to put together supplies that might last 7 years. What if the government comes in and takes it from them by force? Nothing's for sure, ladies and gentlemen, but the act of getting ready, the act of getting your mind and heart in a certain place to resist this is what's important. So that's what you do. Prep, pray, stay out of the way, and do not take the vaccine. Do not take the vaccine. Yeah, watch for an event, Rough Edge. Yeah, there's something coming. Pompeo, by the way, I brought this up when he said it was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Secretary of State Pompeo came out and called all Americans that were overseas to come back home, that the window for them being able to return back to the United States was closing. There you are. Something big is coming. Why would they want Americans back here? One, so, well, you need to come home for your own protection. Okay, that's legitimate, but there's more to it than that. I'm convinced they want to enslave all Americans. And they can't have any roaming around the world. They don't want many roaming around the world that might have a mind of their own. I think it's that simple. I haven't trusted Pompeo from the beginning. And with NORAD being shut down at Cheyenne Mountain, they've been locked in there. And with Pompeo saying everybody to come home, with all the things that are going on with this entire Wuhan virus deal to try to shut down America. They're cutting off our communications lines. They're cutting off our logistical lines. Ladies and gentlemen, you see somebody taking down your communications and your logistics, they're warring against you. It's not, it might be through the Chinese. The Chinese were the trigger, but this was being done by people in our country. We're the evil empire. I know China's worse, but the manipulators, the satanic individuals, and I'm going to call them that, the evil ones in our government, are the ones that are controlling this whole thing. And their end target, as I've said millions of times now, boy, isn't that that's an exaggeration, I know. Trump is just the example of the American people, that the front that he puts out there. They're not attacking him. That's all a show. Oh yeah, they hate each other. You know, one mafioso hates another mafioso because they want the power, not them. They don't want them to have it, right? That's just natural. You see that in the La Cosa Nostra, et cetera, between the drug cartels. They're just fighting for their position of power. That's all Trump's doing. He's not out there fighting for you. He's out there to put on a show that makes you think he's fighting for you. And who is the end target? Not Trump. You are the end target. The American people are the end target. Well, okay, Richard Connolly, here we go again. You're citing, I don't know how many times I got to say this. United States Code Title 8, Section 1101, subsection A, 21 and 20. U.S. citizens have no standing Bill of Rights. Let me ask you a question. Do you know what Marbury versus Madison is? The supreme law of the land is the Constitution of the United States, which includes the Bill of Rights. That's why I say we need to be aligned with principle, not personality. Of course, they're going to try to enter laws that will take away your rights, or they think they're going to take away your rights. But Marbury versus Madison, a Supreme Court decision in 1809, I think it was, said that any law, I don't care if it's in the U.S. Code or not, any law that's enacted that's contrary to the Constitution is null and void, Mr. Connolly. I don't care what the U.S.C. Title 8 says. These are legalese things to try to enslave you. And that should have been stricken from the U.S. Code by the Congress. But no, what do? They put it in there. The same way, Mr. Connolly, and I know I'm not confronting you. I'm saying this is a really bad, dangerous thing to do, to use the master's tools to enslave yourself in the master's house. And that's exactly what you're doing. It's kind of a turn on, you can't use the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. But regardless, it's just like with the NDAA. You know, when the CIA was spying on you, and still is, the Congress passed a law allowing them to spy on Americans and to use propaganda against them. That's actually what it really did. Use propaganda against Americans. Use your tax monies to propagandize you, right? Well, then use American institutions, supposedly like the CIA and the FBI, to propagandize you. Well, then the next year, they funded it. This is your Congress that's supposed to be up there protecting your rights. There's the New Jersey governor, Governor Murphy, when Tucker says, well, what about the Bill of Rights? Do you know what his answer was? His answer was, well, the Bill of Rights are above my pay grade. What? You swore an oath to something? That's another thing. No one should swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States unless they've read it and taken a quiz, asking them at least some very basic things if they understand it, so they know what the oath is they're taking. Most people think obeying a defense, and that ain't it. So, Mr. Connolly, I don't give a damn about Title 8, Section 1101. It's unconstitutional. Yeah, I know about Amazing Polly, Mary Mel. I'm very aware of Amazing Polly. Yeah, Frozen Marauder. YouTube is messing with my channel a lot, and so is Twitter. I've noticed they throttle me. They shadow ban me, and the notifications aren't made. I never thought I'd be considered that important by YouTube, but yeah, I know, and there's nothing I can do about that. I'm sorry. And by the way, of course, with the way they've throttled this, when I put this up, it takes hours and hours for it to show up on my normal channel list. So you have to kind of search around for it, or There might be anyway, and I'm sorry. There's not much I can do about that. They're controlling that at their spot, and I can't get by it. Gary Hines, I'll address this. He says you should do an interview with Dave Hodges. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm too different for. I mean, I was surprised Rich Higgins came on for a lot of reasons, and I've had some other people that I've interviewed, but people are afraid to have me on their show because of my background. I was going to show you. I think I'll show you. This isn't really the time to do it, but I'll be right because people think I always hide this. I don't want you to forget about the vaccine problem. I don't want you to forget about all the things we've talked about. But give me just a second. I'll be right back. Okay. uh, my history is very well known, and I've talked about it before. And I don't care whether you believe it or not. Um, I based my understanding of things over studying for many, many years. Now, we were going to do a song today. It's the reason why I came down here, actually. But he's just hurting too bad to do this today. But we were going to do a song by the Oak Ridge Boys called "Loving Two Women is Like a Ball and Chain," where one gets your money and one gets your name. Anyway, it's a really funny, which I personally experienced. Okay, and I've talked about it before. We're not all as prudish as we like to pretend we are. All of us have made mistakes. I can honestly say that I never cheated, with against my family. Put it that way. Everybody knew each other and all that. But look, I'll just show this to you. So, in 1986, I ran for Salt Lake County Sheriff, and I was in USA Today and in People Magazine, Us Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, LA. Everything. Okay, all those things. But in 1986, I was running for sheriff, and so a local magazine at the time called Utah Holiday did a story on me. So I'm going to let you see it, okay? There it is. So, I had a friend, a Twitter friend. It started out as a Twitter friend, and then, and this is only two of my wives. I had four altogether, okay? But at any rate, and I don't think they'll object to me showing this because it's public information. They're no longer with me. Okay, this whole thing only lasted for 5 or 6 years total. That's all. The the song by Oak Ridge Boys is very true. But is it biblically incorrect? Well, I could get into arguments with all of you all day long about that. But I'm just going to tell you, no, actually, God said that David was a man after his own heart, and this was part of the reason why. Would I ever do it again? I just told you, Oak Ridge Boys, loving two women is like a ball and chain. Now, when I finally was alone with Carol, that the depth of the intimacy of that is something that is just not worth putting in jeopardy. I'll just put that. And I mean, not just, but what I'm saying is it's hard to have the emotions, the really deep emotion. Not that you can't, but that some of the. I mean, you think about it. The devil's trying to destroy families and our human associations now. How much more so when you have more people to influence? So at any rate, they did a whole write-up on me here, like they did in Us and People Magazine and some. I came down and my friend. That's why he called me up the other day and he says, I think we need to do this song by Oak Ridge Boys. Come on down. Well, the reason why is because he had found this in his library. He had forgotten he had it. So there you go. I have nothing to hide. I mean, but it's because of that that a lot of, and I'll just say, a lot of what are considered to be traditional Christians don't want to taint their image by having me around. Alex Jones definitely went there, as did Mike Adams. and some others. I only mentioned Alex Jones because his was pretty blatant. Both times he kind of got rid of my. One of them was Infowars that actually put up a video that I had done on the Boston bombing. I did an entire series on the Boston bombing, and they put it up, and then when they checked me out, oh, they verified I was a former lieutenant colonel, all right. They even said so on the air, but when they really Googled me, found out, oh no, we can't have him. We'll lose our Christian support. So no, we're going to get rid of him. Never mind what he says. So I doubt that Dave Hodges would do that. I've had other people that have suggested that as well, but I wouldn't demand that or even try to go down that way. Okay, let me see here. Boy, it's jumped way down to the bottom here. Yeah, Edelson James, I saw that. Mike Adams is warning with David Knight. Uh, I have some problems with Mike Adams. I mean, I appreciate the work that he's done over the years and all that, but he's done some things. This thing against me, for instance, he and Jones were both in on that. And I tried to reach out to him when they posted that video on Infowars. I wrote them and I said, "Gee, thank you for doing that. You've got my blessing. You didn't need to ask my permission. Anybody can use my videos as long as it's not taken out of context." But when they checked on me after that, they took me down. So, and I've had some other problems with Mike Adams. David Knight, on the other hand, I have a lot of respect for. And David Knight is, he's a trained engineer. He's a real scientist. I don't know about Mike Adams' background. Some of the things he does, I wonder. Okay, he's done some good work. I'm not saying he hasn't, but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, what matters is where your heart is, Karen Wilson. Very true. Yeah, Deanna, but a lot of Christians don't like to go there. Someone's past doesn't define their present or future. Otherwise, we would all be lost. I know. I know. Yeah, I definitely fight uphill battles. Carol used to say to me, she used to say, because I'd be thinking, wow, look at all these horrible things that keep happening to me, and I just can't seem to stop it. She goes, well, Roy, you were one of those guys that stuck your head up and said something. What did you think they were going to do? That is very true. People are afraid of things they don't understand. People make light of things they don't understand. The allegory of eating the apple in the Garden of Eden. Eve didn't take a bite out of an apple. That's a symbol of apple, of course, now for evil reasons, you know. But it wasn't an apple. Yeah, I'm sorry, it wasn't. That's what you tell children to cover the real adult story. What am I going to say? Actually, I'll address that too. Vedic Warrior saying, in the past, Vu, the good colonel as opposed to the former bad colonel. No, well, let me tell you something, okay? Um, no, there were forces at work there that very, very powerful forces. The Utah state government, the Mormon church, who had, and the Mormon church has contacts all through the government, in the military, key positions in the military, in the intelligence community. They have a lot of power, and I found out later through I wired myself and talked to a former um, general authority of the church who admitted to me that they had done all these nasty things to me. So basically, what occurred was is no, my family didn't think I was bad. They probably you know finally got talked into that later, but. Uh, it was a lot of pressure to put them under. We were all very young. We were in our 20s, early 30s, um, late 20s, early 30s. And to have that kind of evil force come down on you, I mean, obviously it creates stress that, and I was wrong to put them through that. I should, we talked about whether we should go public with the family, and they all agreed that we should because we didn't want anybody to think I was hiding something and to be able to get the message out. But the fact of the matter was, we really didn't understand at that point the pressures that we were going to bring to bear. So I don't blame them for not being with me anymore. I don't. Like I said, Carol's the only one that stuck around. Um, but Again, would I do that again? No, 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 and I don't hold it against people who do. Abraham did, Gideon did, as I've said before. David, of course, did. Solomon, a lot of those guys did, and I could even tell you others. But you'd go stark, grave, and angry if we talked about the historical aspects of this. But it doesn't matter. The point is no. And I'm not doing it because I hate those people or anything like that. I just realize that I'm not capable. Okay, and I want that intimate, close intimacy that you can't get when you're trying to spread yourself out like that. No, 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 thank you, no, thank you. But did they consider me bad or whatever? No, wasn't like that at all. Yeah, Deborah Johnson. Yeah, that's true. Then that happens, especially when exterior forces are bearing down on your family unit. That happens more. Of course, I mean you see it. Think about what happens in a situation in your company when the company is going through a hard time, or in the military, the police force, when you're going under extreme stress. People lose it with each other. Of course they do. Yeah, so that's going to, and just in the normal course of events, it occurs as well. Yeah, I spent a lot of time quelling, let's just say, family disagreements. I don't want to do that again. It's bad enough with the kids. The kids in a monogamous relationship, trying to keep all that at the, you have no idea. You have no idea. Yeah, Dorothy, I'll explain why. You wonder how, I can't believe you'd even ask that. Maybe you just want me to say it generally. Um, you quarantine the sick. You don't quarantine the well. Okay, that's just the bottom line. How do we quell a real pandemic? Well, if you shut down the economy like they're doing and the social situations, you're going to destroy it even faster. Do you understand that? First of all, the only mask that would actually work properly is something like the old M17 mask, and I explained that at the beginning. The microbes, the viruses, if they even work the way they claim they do, are submicron in size. No surgical mask is stopping anything, nothing. The most it does is if you sneeze or breathe, it keeps it from going out any further. But even that's not entirely true. Number one. Number two, it's training so that you will submit to having your close associations. And this goes along with the social distancing and all that other stuff. It's designed to take away your humanity. It's a deliberate attack. Look at the president. Hey, look at the presidential task forces. They've got the news people out there in the briefing room, separated by several chairs. But look at how they're all the task force is all gathered up there within inches of each other. This isn't serious. So how does it against your rights? Think about it. Limiting your experience. If you go into a quarantined area where there are sick people, not well people, that they're separating out like they're doing now, you go into a place where people are sick, and you should PPE up. Okay? That's only common sense. But this asymptomatic thing, look what they're doing in LA. I wore surgical masks. They're not for this. And N95s are a little better. Again, the only thing that would work would be a CBR mask. Your eyes are still exposed. You'd have to wear sealed goggles. Don't you see? They're just cutting you off from your other human contacts. That's what they're doing. Even if this is a bioweapon, okay, even if it is a bioweapon, they've really gone too far. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, Brian Sasser, I agree with that. The MOP 4, you're obviously prior military and you understand what a MOP 4 is. Good for you. And see that you could tell the lady I was just talking to about that, okay? Why don't you write her? You'll see what was her name? Dorothy Leatherbarrow. Write her about what MOP 4 is. And then she'll understand that this is a training thing to get you to submit to doing whatever they tell you to do. They're getting you ready for the vaccine and other draconian measures. So maybe if you could explain that to her, Brian. Sometimes I can't get the message across. Yeah, Boston was a setup. I called it at the time. I'm not even sure the bombs were real. There was a lot of there were a lot of problems with that. Two government agencies were warring with each other at that point, and that was the end result. Was the FBI totally got absorbed into the CIA? Not that they weren't before, but that just did it. Yeah, exactly, Jason Tops. That's exactly right. It's getting us to the. He's saying that they'll call you, they'll snitch on you. That's what it's about. It's about going back to the German Stasi. Infragard, which is here in the United States, is a snitching organization. They're not spies. They're civilians that think that they're in the intelligence apparatus. They're just being paid. Sometimes not even paid. They're just being used to spy on their fellow Americans, which is atrocious. It's disgusting. Yeah, everything's turning into Pavlovian training. Exactly, aircraft. That's exactly right. I don't know what Rick M said, Jesse, but thank you for taking care of that for me. I don't want to get into the differences between Masons, Freemasons, and Mormons. Done playing around. I could get into a lot of detail in that. As a matter of fact, I was discussing that to some extent with someone that yesterday we were texting back and forth. But if I got into that, I mean, I'm serious. I could teach a college course in it that would go for months. So there's no way I could do that here. I will just say that there is a connection. Okay, that's all I'll say. There is a connection. Okay, I forgot to plug my phone in, so I'm going to lose power here in a minute. So I'm going to have to shut down here pretty quick. Thank you, Janet Barr. That's nice to say. She says the past is the past, and today is today. We got to look to a better future. She's talking about my history. Yeah, yeah. Everyone is looking for a leader, Chevalier. Thank you for saying that. And that's only a natural thing to do because a lot of us just don't have the sociopathic, psychopathic desires to be out front. Not because we're afraid, but frankly, we're a little on the humble side. I think a lot of us we just don't, So I understand what you're saying. So we are looking for a leader, but I think what the opposition is really concerned about, people like the New World Order and Gates and the Rothschilds and the Soroses and the Barack Obamas, all of those people, what they're really worried about is that maybe God is going to do a download for the people that have his mark in their forehead. Remember, I told you what that was. It's the Tav. It says so right in Daniel. It's the letter Tav, which is actually the cross, not the Star of David. It's actually the cross in Hebrew. In Daniel, it says that's the mark. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a crucifix wearing Christian. What it means is that you have, what did Jesus say? He was asked what's important. He says, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and strength. And the second is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. Upon these two stand all the law and the prophets. That's it. No legalese. We don't even need the rest of the Torah if we abided by those two things. And then the Rabbi Hillel, which said a similar thing, was asked if he could cite all of the law while his students stood on one leg. And Hillel said, sure I can. Do not that which you hate to your neighbor. There you are. It's man that makes all these convoluted things. And the apple wasn't an apple that Eve bit into. Sorry, it wasn't. So I don't know who the leader is. I'm hoping that there's a download so that there's a scripture that says that no one will say, Lord, Lord, but that all men will be able to converse with God directly. So that might be this healing in the wings that comes down from Malachi, and that's why, like I said, they're doing the spraying, the stuff in the water to ruin your pineal gland, this vaccine to mess up that portion of your brain where you have the spiritual experiences. They're trying to block that, is what they're trying to do. So they know something like that's coming, where there's going to be this, not all of humanity, but a large number of them will apparently have an upgrade. A lot of people call it the rapture. I don't believe in the actual rapture where you're caught up in the sky. The word cloud that's used in the New Testament for that he will come in the clouds and we will be caught up in the clouds with him, it doesn't mean what you think it means. Go look it up in the Greek. Okay, it's entirely different than what you might think it means. And basically, it means that the blindness of your eyes, the deafness of your ears is removed, and you can see not just the evil, but you can communicate with God. That's what they're afraid of. That's where we're headed, ladies and gentlemen. And God wants this movement of the material world binding with the spiritual, that they become inseparable. That's where this is going. Not for all of us, apparently. People like Gates aren't going to go there. I shouldn't judge him like that, but just watching what he's doing. Yes, Richard Diamond, the problem is changing your DNA. That's another problem too. They can actually change you in almost a different species with these vaccines. Thank you for bringing it up. He says CV666 vaccines will change your DNA. I don't know the name of it, but yeah. I know about Cody Snodgrass. I do know of him. I don't have contact with him. You know, no, I don't, but I know of him. Okay, I'll just say that. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, David Knight, the gold standard in real journalism. My brother was the Army news chief in the Pentagon, and even then he knew about David Knight, and he talked about that he considered him to be a great reporter, and that was something coming from my brother, who was a trained mass communicator. Yeah, that's another thing. DNA collection. Yeah, what are they looking for, Rough Edge? That's pretty easy. They're looking for the seed of God as opposed to the seed of the devil. That's what they're doing. That's why they got upset at the people at Waco. It wasn't the child abuse or the marriage arrangements or anything else that David Koresh was doing. Some of it was crazy, I admit. But they saw somebody that they thought might really be the Davidic king. They were afraid of that because he took the name of David and he took the name of Koresh, which is Cyrus. He put those two together, and Bill and Hillary Clinton saw that, and it scared the hell out of them. And the ATF was wrong in doing what they did there. They warred upon Americans. Janet Reno and the Clintons have a lot of blood on their hands, and well, the reason why they did it is because they're Luciferians, literally. I see Lionel Nation making fun of that. Why do we keep talking about this Luciferian stuff? Because Lionel, it's real. And I'm afraid we're going to have a first-hand experience of it on May 1st. I hope not. And it'll be clouded as something else, some natural event, or, the North Koreans attacked us, or the Chinese, or the Iranians, whoever they're going to blame it on. Remember, they're actually doing it because what have I said? They will destroy everything rather than lose their power. So that's another reason why you don't wear the masks, because it's an exercise in their power. Not in preventing the spread of the disease. That's not what they're doing it for. It's a training mechanism. It's Pavlovian. Yeah, you know someone by their fruits. No, I think Michael Goldman. I'm sure Michael Adams has an outstanding resume. Oh, I don't doubt that. Yeah, Texas country. Yeah, you got the idea. But sex with whom? Yeah, fallen angels who could have sex. People think, oh no, angels don't have the ability to have sex. No, yeah, they do. Sorry, but they do. Yeah, the sinful relationship, Lisa, was with a fallen angel. That's exactly what it was. And then what happened was, well, anyway, it's the story of the man who doesn't want to lose his lover. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. You retracted your message, Edelson? Why did you do that? I almost wish I knew what it was. Obviously, I upset Simply Fred. Oh well, tough luck. Well, yeah, 377-2242. Again, that was a fairy tale for the children. Okay, um, and it wasn't a real serpent. The serpent is the tet, which is the Hebrew symbol for the satanic person, influence, personality, which is why I got very upset when I saw that they spelled Trump Heights, which used to be the Golan Heights. They spelled Trump Heights in Israel with a tet instead of a tav. The tav and the tet have the same sound. Well, the tav can also have the sound as well, like in that kind of a sound. Um, but they could have used the tet. I mean, I'm sorry, the tav to spell Trump's name. They did. They used the tet, and I made a big issue about that, and that was one of the things that concerned me. And now he's becoming the most subtle beast of the field at this point. He puts on a show. I don't trust him. He's a liar and a deceiver, and I will say that publicly until, as I said, I see him make a public repentance. But he's not going to do that. He's not going to do it. Yeah, social distancing, right, Richard Diamond? Richard Diamond. Socialism, socialist nations. It's all a control mechanism. Yeah, they are interfering with our rights. You wear a mask when you go into a quarantine facility. Okay? But they're trying to make everybody sick. Don't you see how this is working out? And then they're ignoring the importance of herd immunity. And there's a big fight about that, of course. Right? Because they want to take control. So no, I'm resisting it all. I'm resisting it all. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that anymore, Apple Country. I'm sorry, but I think we kind of, I think we kind of beat that dead wife there. So, yeah, Mike Adams' wife is from Taiwan. I know. Yeah, well, nothing against that. Gee, as a matter of fact, my brother-in-law, Carol's brother, he's married to a lady from Vietnam. Wonderful lady, amazing. Well, oh, good point, Deanna. Yeah, and this is important. The apple doesn't represent sex. Okay, you're making a good point here. They were told to go and replenish the earth even before the fall. Right, you're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah, they were. Male and female were made, and they were told to multiply and replenish the earth prior to the fall. No, yeah. So really, what it was a form of adultery that Eve participated in. That's really what it was. There were pre-Adamites. There were these fallen angels that were here. Azazel was probably the one that is talked about in the pseudepigrapha and the apocrypha that probably beguiled Eve. Um, and I could get into some real details, but yeah, it wasn't the sex. It was the sex outside the covenant. That's the best way to put it. The covenant between Adam and Eve broke it. And that's why it says in one of the commandments, right? And God never gave us just a commandment for this world. His laws are eternal, so they're spiritual. They even apply to the spiritual realm, right? And so what does it say? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Well, what's adultery? Well, it's defined throughout Leviticus and other places. And it is what? That if a person, if a woman is married and another man, she has sex with another man, not her husband, they are in violation of the law of adultery. Now, I know some people, well, that's sexist. Well, what about if a man has sex outside of marriage? Well, if he has sex outside of marriage with a married woman, he's in trouble. Okay, he violates the law of adultery. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, a man having sex with an unmarried woman, an unattached woman, is a type of fornication. It's not fornication in the concept that many of you think of. It's a type of fornication, and I don't really want to get into that. But that woman, if she's belongs to her father still in her father's home, this is how the ancients looked at it. Then you're violating that father's house. It's a form of fornication. Okay, that's the fornication. It's not an adulteration of a contract like a marriage, which is what adultery means, an adulteration of a contract. But with the father, if for a maid, it's fornicating, it's interrupting in that relation. It's not a violation of a contract, but it's dang close.
What's the Levitical? Let me ask this. I'm going to say, does anybody know what the Levitical uh, uh, Levitical way of fixing that mistake is? Does anybody know if a man humbles a maid, what happens? Does anybody know that? I'm going to run to the bottom here and see if anybody can, because we got a lot. And I don't know how we got off on this when I start talking about vaccines and the First Amendment, but we're exercising our First Amendment rights. Does anybody know what the Levitical law is? And Jesus didn't he, not one jot nor tittle of the law shall pass away until all is fulfilled, and it's still not fulfilled yet, ladies and gentlemen, and never will be, in fact. But that's another. The Mosaic law will, but I'm talking about the Ten Commandments. Um, okay, it's too long. I'll just tell you. Wow, I can't believe how many comments I get. If a man, be married or not, has sex with an unmarried woman, he is required by the Levitical law to take her as his wife and never divorce her. So, gentlemen, if you think you're going to go out and play around, think about what you might end up with. Okay, you might end up with having to take care of another woman you can't do. That's how God will punish you. He will say, "You want her? Yeah. Now you can never get rid of her, even if she turns out to be the bitch of eternity. You're stuck with her. You cannot divorce her under any circumstances. Believe me, I know that could be a punishment." Yeah. Juice Harris says, "Colonel, do you believe we will be executed for refusing the vaccine or chip?" Well, if they think that you're violently opposing, of course, the way they'll handle this is they'll shut off your food supply. You won't be able to buy food. You won't be able to get medical attention. You won't be able to go anywhere, do anything. They'll demand that you turn in your weapons. Of course, they'll do that with the food too. And then what they'll end up doing is put you in a re-education camp. And then if they can't re-educate you, we know from what Barack Obama was involved in, which was the Bill Ayers movement, right, back in the 70s, that they'll kill you. And they're planning on killing, at that time in the 70s, it was about 25 million people, I think. Well, if you interpolate the number that we are now, our population now, that would be in the neighborhood of 60 to 80 million. That's what they're going to do. Okay? And Trump is sending us down this road, ladies and gentlemen. He's pretending like he can't do anything about it. He's a placeholder. He's that propaganda, psychological warfare position that is fixing you into a position so they can attack you. He's put you in a trance. He's put you in a all is well in Zion idea so that they can maneuver against you, and that's exactly what they've done. He's done nothing to stop it. Nothing. I don't care if he is saying liberate Minnesota and liberate Michigan. He's doing nothing, or he'd have his DOJ out there arresting these mayors and these governors, or at least suing them, if not indicting them. Okay, man, it's been an hour and a half. I didn't intend this to go this long, so I'm going to sign off. Okay, I like to tell you what I'm going to tell you what I told you, to tell you and then tell you what I told you. It's the way I was trained to teach in the Army. Okay, so this is what you got to do. The real purpose of this live stream today was to tell you about the vaccine that they want to use that will burn out the section of your brain that is responsible for emotions, spiritual experiences, the desire to pray and have a connection with God. That's going to be in this vaccine that Bill Gates is coming out with. Guaranteed. I can see the writing on the wall. You cannot take the vaccine. There's a link, not here. I don't have it in the description box here. You can go to my Twitter line and you'll find it there. You'll see it. You'll know what it is. Or you can go on the community tab here on YouTube and you can click on that community tab and look at, I think it was just the last one I put up. And the link to this is in there, and it tells you what point in the timeline in the video to go to hear about this briefing about the vaccine to destroy the brain that helps you to love your wife, your husband, your children, to have inspiration, to have creativity, and of course, spiritual contacts with God. Your prayers, your like I say, your inspiration, your revelation from God, your contact with God. They want to destroy that because who do they want to be? They want to replace that. It's just like, Nimrod. Nimrod wanted to kill God so that he could become God. These guys know they can't kill God, but they're doing everything they can to kill your contact, your ability to have that contact with God. They want to kill that so that you will now hold them in the same place as God. Do you see? And that's what government's been trying to do anyway. Trump got up there in his rallies and says, "We don't worship government, we worship God." I've already talked about all that. Words mean nothing. Actions mean everything. Even demons know Jesus Christ's name and use it to deceive you. And I talked about that in a video not too long ago. Okay, I've really gone on too long. Thanks everybody for being here. Please go look at that. Get ready. We can't submit to this. We cannot. We cannot. Not just because it's just the mark, but because it will destroy us. Literally, it will destroy you. Okay? All right. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. And I'll see you next time. Again, this is going to be a while before this is actually up on my line. I did this before. Take 30 seconds, make a copy of the link so that you can have access to it, because those seem to work. It just doesn't get posted on the channel for hours or days. And it's hard, and even though it's in there, further down you can't bring it up. You got to search for it. It's too hard. So take the minute here and copy the link, and then feel free to send it out. Please do. By the way, I did send this to Monograph. I sent the link to Monograph. Okay, I did. The person that asked me to do that, I did it. Okay. Jefferson's 33 says, nobody here is taking any vaccine, Roy. I believe that. I know most of the people here know exactly what's going on. So there are members of my own family that don't understand this. And they grew up around me. And they don't understand this. So, this is a really terrible psychological warfare they're committing upon us. And it's demonic. It is demonic. Okay, you all take care. We'll talk to you later. If something pops up again, you'll probably see me again. All right? All right. And I'm sincere in this. God bless you all. May God nourish you and protect you. Talk to you later.